Hi, thanks for joining me. I'm Jay Bassell, and we are excited to present to you another episode of Ask the DTG Expert. And I've got my colleague and coworker and friend, Terry Combs, who has joined me. Hi, Terry.
Hey Jay, excited to do another webinar on DTG today.
Happy you're here. Happy we've got an audience. Obviously, we are recording this session and it will be posted to YouTube for those of you who want to watch it again, or if you missed it live, you can watch it there later. But this has been a fun series for us. I can't wait because we've got lots more coming. But today's topic is something that we run into quite a lot, which is it's kind of like a little detour away from DTG just for a second. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does indeed, Jay.
So today's session, if you think about this, let me share this again with folks so they can see my screen. We've got obviously the Equipment Zone logo, but another question that comes up a lot of times is, well, why wouldn't I just buy a sublimation printer, a dye sub printer? You know, they're cheaper, right, Terry?
Well, they are, Jay.
they
But
almost all of them are, right? Isn't that
that is a fact.
Yeah. So this comes up a lot. This is a reality, and we just thought we'd spend some time on this question as well, highlighting a little bit of the differences and letting you kind of do your thing, which is to help people understand what the ultimate goal is.
Well, and Jay, I think it comes from a couple of things. First of all, folks not really understanding what DTG, what the DTG process is. You know, what you can do with it, what you can't do with it, that sort of thing, and even more confusion over something like sublimation. So, you know, so the question is, you have this direct-to-garment printer, you have this F2100, you have this F3070,
right?
Can I substitute? Can I do sublimation? Can I do desktop inkjet transfers? Can I buy plastisol transfers? Can I do you know, heat transfer vinyl? You know, are they interchangeable? Are they the same thing? Right. And they're not. So, you know, I think it's a matter of having an understanding of what each of those technologies can do or can't do. And obviously, you know, our focus here is DTG, but, you know, Jay, on our live chat that all their sales staff kind of man that. And so if you have a question, you go on the live chat, it's somebody from our sales department answering. It's not somebody from our tech department, by the way. We will forward you. We'll get their information, information over, but you know, it is a sales area. And Jay, when we're doing trade shows as well, how many times have somebody walked up and said, well, that sublimation printer over there, that's only $2,500 and it prints shirts. So, you know, why wouldn't I do that? And there's a real, surprisingly, because sublimation has been around for decades, a surprising number of people in this industry who don't really understand what sublimation is or what it does or what it's capable of doing. So, you know, Jay, to the point where we actually had a school on the East Coast with all the right numbers and the exact name and all the everything they needed to know about sending a PO for a large format sublimation printer, and then they got it and said, "Oh wait, we can't do black T-shirts." So,
oh boy,
yeah.
Oh boy, I can only imagine. Yeah.
So whenever we get a question, you know, on our live chat, when somebody ask a question about sublimation, our response is always this: do you understand what sublimation is, and do you understand what it's capable of?
Right.
And when they say yes, we still go on and explain what it is, because then they say, oh no, you still
need to test them and just a little bit of a query to find out. Now, I know you think you know, but let me ask you this question. But it comes up so often, I think it's important. I have always thought of them as related, almost like cousins in the decorated apparel industry, and the strategies are similar, but how they're executed are different. The chemistries are different, and then the final products are significantly different. So to me, I wouldn't even say one is better over the other. I would say the classic Terry and Jay answer, well, it depends, right?
Different types of digital decorating. And you know, sublimation is obviously well, not obviously. Sublimation is best suited to things like phone cases, coffee mugs. If you have a coffee mug that has a photo on it, there it is, DTG Academy. That is sublimation.
Look, I brought a prop just for
You
you,
have a
Terry.
prop. You know, I had one too, and I looked over here and thought, oh, I took that to the kitchen.
Hey, no, you could take this to the kitchen, but I don't know that it would serve much purpose. But I know it's got a little bit of a shine on it. But when I showed this to people before, and they flipped out at the quality, because this is actually has a polymer surface on top of this board. It's wood. So
yeah. And when you say a polymer surface, yes, anything that you sublimate on is has to have a polyester coating on it. So you can't go to Target and buy a coffee mug and sublimate on it, because it has that special polyester coating to accept the sublimation dye. So basically this. You're going to have an inkjet printer. It's going to print out on sublimation transfer paper a transfer, and it's, once we have a dry transfer, we can apply that and apply it with heat, generally in the 400-degree range. We're going to apply that with heat, and what happens is sublimation dye. Sublimation means going from a solid to a gas without ever being a liquid. It skips a step chemically. And so when it becomes a gas, it becomes a part of that polyester. If it's done properly, then it's never going to fade. It's never going to wash away. It's going to be a permanent print. And yes, you can print that on garments as well. It only works on 100% polyester, primarily white fabric. The reason being, sublimation dyes are CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And which means those inks also are transparent, printing on top of each other to make 16 million colors, Jay. So that's why you can,
with the exception of one, right? With the exception of one notable color.
Exactly right. You can't do white.
No white ink.
DTG can do 16 million colors plus one.
so DTG wins? Is that what you're saying, Terry?
Well, hey, it depends on who you're talking to, because, hey, you know what? We sell sublimation printers for anybody that's interested in that product. So
we do, and I'm going to share that page in just a second. But it almost sounds like what you're really saying, you're framing this conversation and the question to say, so what technology is best suited for my business, rather than one being better than the other? Is that fair to say?
Right,
fair to ask?
Exactly right. And when I said primarily white fabric, we had someone in our office there in Tempe just 2 days ago who was sublimating on 60% poly, 40% cotton, pastel colors, and her prints are very cool. But her approach was this: I really like that kind of washed look, that kind of I've owned this awesome t-shirt for 20 years and it still looks awesome.
Yeah, it's like a distressed or faded. It's got time. It's got a little worn.
Exactly. Because that sublimation dye will only adhere to the 60% poly, the 40% cotton, nothing happens there. So the bottom line is this: if you want to do garments with sublimation, a couple of options. Number one, do 100% polyester products. And we have certainly customers that do that. Number two, go the large format route. And we have 42-inch printers, and we have 62-inch printers, and even bigger, that will make a transfer that basically that you transfer directly onto fabric, either with a large format heat press or with a calendar press, which is basically oil heated rollers. And when the transfer paper and the fabric go through the roller, the transfer happens, and the polyester garment becomes that color becomes part of that fabric. You can also do it on finished garments as an all over print, but you're going to get what people in the industry jokingly call smiles, like under the arms.
The little wrinkles where, if the fabric overlapped, then that ink doesn't transfer.
Exactly. And you know what? In the fashion industry, you can actually go into like women's apparel stores, and if you look at the prints, sometimes you'll see those little smiles or those little white areas of the fabric. But a lot of folks don't realize, Jay, that with sublimation, like you see somebody, it's a cycling team, and it's sponsored by Coca-Cola, and they have these black cool racing garments that have a red and white Coca-Cola across the front of them. That started life as a white fabric. That is just completely a sublimation transfer. So the situation you have is doing an all over print. The expense involved in that, of course, is a large format heat press costs far more than the printer costs.
Oh my goodness.
A calendar press, the same. Is it an industry that is huge right now? It is. We certainly have customers that have multiple large format sublimation printers because they're into that niche market.
Yeah,
Baby blankets.
They found their lane. They found their niche. I know that's a big hot topic for you.
Yeah, well, and it is. I'm very much a niche market guy, and there's a decorator in the St. Louis area that at Christmas time they cannot print enough baby blankets, and it's an all over print, but it started as a white 100% polyester fabric and with a full color image on it, garden flags, things like that. Here's the flip side. When someone walks up to our booth at a trade show, or they come onto our chat, or they give us a call on the phone, what are they looking at? They're looking at our samples on black and navy and red and green. And they're looking at that sample over there with that really cool print on it on that black t-shirt, and then pointing at that sublimation printer. And we're like, no, that's something different. So if you want to decorate on multi-colors of garments, then direct to garment is the obvious choice for you. Now, I don't want to dissuade anybody from sublimation now that you're listening and you understand what it does, because there's a large decorator right here in Phoenix that has multiple F2100s and multiple sublimation printers because they complement each other. Over here, we're printing directly onto 100% cotton or high cotton content fabrics and 80/20 hoodies and all these high cotton content or colored garments, even different types of blends that will work in this process. Over here is where we're decorating, again, phone cases and coffee mugs and plaques and coasters and all those cool items. And yes, directly printing onto the garments as well. Generally speaking, if you want to be a garment decorator, you're going to go the direction of direct to garment. You're not necessarily going to go the direction of sublimation unless you are a large format specialty decorator, or maybe you only do children's apparel where you're only decorating on like white onesies or things like that. But I think the whole point of our conversation today, Jay, though, was the fact that so many people will reach out to us and say, okay, well, that sublimation printer, that 24-inch printer is $24.95. So, so I'm thinking I want to go that direction to start with.
Sure.
And we will have to give that explanation of, yes, you can do that, but here are the limitations, because the last thing we want for you to do is get that printer into your shop and then start realizing what you can't do, because in your mind, you want to print black t-shirts.
That creates quite a stressor for everybody. So we try to avoid that drama ahead of time. And it sounds like, if you remember, I flashed this screen up before, Terry, where it's like, well, why can't I just have that one printer, that one machine that does it all? And we're like, well, we'll be the first to tell you when it comes out. Let me tell you that. Let me promise you that. But it really plays to the strengths of each of the printers. Each of the machines has a defined purpose and is built with that purpose in mind. And it seems like we always run into folks that want to kind of re-engineer it or try to create some something different from what its purpose was originally intended. So we're both fans of what you just finished explaining in such a great way, that you can definitely have both. And I want people to understand it, in case they were misunderstood, that we are not just a DTG company. I mean, that is our primary focus. That is kind of one of our passions. But you could please feel free to visit our webpage and ask any of our experts, because as you can see right here, I just did a little screen capture from this morning. One of the things that's interesting about sublimation is, and the way Epson handles it, is they kind of have I don't want to say good, better, best. I used to say that, but I think it's better to think of it as, in terms of production, kind of small, medium, and large. And
Right.
many of our customers might start with the one in the middle, the F570. Some will start with something larger because they already know what that market is. They're already experienced,
Sure.
and they're looking for bigger printers, even than the F6370. So the point is, ladies and gentlemen, that these are great printers. We just want to make sure that we have them in the right lanes and there isn't any misinformation.
At least, Jay, now probably over the last 4 or 5 years, people actually know how to say the word sublimation, because how many times have we heard sublimination and 1,000 other variations of that word? That's the first tip off, by the way, that you don't really understand what this does. But, and Jay, when I started as a garment decorator, and I'm sure you were the same way, I was a screen printer, and the folks down the street, they were embroiderers, and those folks over there, they did transfers, and the folks down here, they did some other type of decorating. Today, it's very, very unusual for anybody who's been in business for, say, more than 4 or 5 years to only be a DTG decorator, or only be an embroiderer, to only be a screen printer. So we want you to see the possibilities of something like sublimation, because sublimation is the perfect marriage with the DTG printer. And a big reason for that is they're both CMYK printers. They're both process ink printers, which means they can do photographic images. So while I'm doing DTG printing over here on navy hoodies, I can take that same image and bring it over here, and I can put that same image via sublimation onto coffee mugs or onto other types of items that will complement my business. So adding sublimation to a DTG business, or adding DTG to a sublimation business, is the perfect marriage, because it's not like saying I'm going from DTG to embroidery, and now I need to learn how to, how to thread needles and
digitize logos.
Exactly. Right.
It's a totally different process.
This is just like a click of a switch, natural transition. Yes, there are some nuances that you need to learn in either process. And, that's why the Equipment Zone spends so much time doing this, doing education, doing training, doing videos on how to do this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. So, but those little nuances are small compared to the fact that same process of creating your art over here is exactly the same as creating the art over here. So
yeah, that's so smart. And it does eliminate some of the challenges. And I think once people really kind of get their arms around color and color management for both DTG and for sublimation, then the learning curve after that is easier. I mean, that's probably, would you say, and I'm, we didn't really talk about this, but that's probably the biggest hurdle for most folks, is just the actual management of color.
It is, and more in the sublimation arena than in the garment arena, because garment printing customers are a little more forgiving, because they already know, they've dealt with screen printers and other types of decorators where it's not a perfect substrate. You're printing on fabric, and so you see an image over here and think, man, that looks really cool. Over here in sublimation, you're on a flat substrate, and you can see every minute detail. You have to be a little more exacting on your color management and that type of thing as well. So so over here where I'm saying, it's an easy transition, you do have to pay a little more attention. And again, the little nuances about how to properly heat apply, or how to properly cool the product when it's done, all those types of things. Because Jay, as we often comment, there's a lot of information on the internet that's not exactly correct when it comes to sublimation as well. I know. I always thought, I just found that out on Tuesday, Jay. Not everything.
Well, thanks for sharing with me. I'm going to write that down. That's important.
Not everything on the internet is true. So,
well, I can tell you that everything that you've said today is true. And I think unless there's something else, and there might be, I don't want to cut you short. I'm just saying that the content that we're trying to share, that was really the purpose. And one of the reasons that we wanted to have these conversations was to kind of take a little bit of the sales spin out of this and just try to give a little bit more education. And I think that that's, helping to highlight two things. One, Equipment Zone is interested truthfully, in helping you grow your business. Yes, we
Sure.
want to sell you a printer. I'm not going to, Terry's in sales. Hello. But at the same time, we want to make sure it's the right choice. And we want to make sure that we have service after the sale so that we can earn your trust again and again and again. So anyway, little plug for us. I think we're going in the right direction. But what would you say to those folks who maybe are on the fence? They kind of are leaning one way or the other. Is there anything else they should know about, sublimation versus DTG printing?
Well, Jay, and as we talked about on many previous webinars, I ask more questions than the customer's asking. And my questions are, what business are you in? What business do you want to be in? What products are you looking to decorate? And we have that conversation. I want to, as we talked about, I want to do baseball uniforms. Well, you know what? Sublimation might be the better choice for you. I want to do, I want to sell to schools. Well, you know what? Direct to garment's probably a better choice for you, because schools are not going to say to you, I want 100% white polyester garments, for the band. We want, long sleeve navy hoodies and this and that. So it really depends on, and that's a conversation that we're happy to have with you. If you're out there and you're on the fence about different technologies, give us a call. And we don't just know direct to garment. We don't just know sublimation. The folks at Equipment Zone have lots of experience with lots of different decoration methods. So, we can talk intelligently with you about any of these types of processes that you're thinking about.
That is a true statement. And so I'm going to go back to that just so folks can see it one more time before we close out. Is the reality. Please visit our website, explore what's there. We have videos also on sublimation, on calendar heat presses, all kinds of other heat presses on our YouTube channel. So, but I think for the purposes of today, Terry, we're just about wrapped up. And I want to thank you again for being our DTG expert. And we can ask the expert these types of questions, because Terry's going to be the straight shooter that'll point us in the right direction and have those other questions, right? Like well, why wouldn't I buy a sublimation printer? It's so much cheaper. Well, maybe you should be both. Maybe you should do take Terry's advice and think about your customer base first before you make the final decision, or be open-minded enough to know you might go in the other direction too, and be that much more effective. So these are some of the discussions, Terry, that we have on our users group. Even though it's dedicated to this particular printer, the Epson F2100, we also have an Epson F3070 group. I don't know if people know that. I'm going to start flashing that up on the page here soon so that we can see. We just want to try to keep the segmentation of it so that the questions and the comments are usually more related to this particular printer. But right, we often talk about sublimation, and people are making suggestions there too.
Fantastic. As I said, Jay, we are always open to having a conversation with you about what direction you want to take your business and what's the best route to get there. And we will give you honest answers on all that, because we don't want you as a customer today. We want you as a customer from today forward. Absolutely. Well, Terry, thanks again. Appreciate that. Here's our contact information. As you can see, I'm not sure why what happened to my video there, but I'm still here, I promise. There, I'm back. There you are. But the key contact information is important, and folks can reach out to we do have sublimation experts, so thank you for making sure that. I know that's one of Amy's backgrounds. She's got a lot more knowledge than I do, for sure. That's not surprising. So whether you reach out to Terry or Jeff or Amy, we have staff ready to answer your questions for sublimation as well as DTG printing. So that wraps us up, Terry. We're done, unless there's something else that we need to cover. I'd like to say thank you again, and to our guests who joined us live. We appreciate that you're here. And for everybody who wants to watch after the fact, you can see this on YouTube. So if you're watching it on YouTube, now you know. Thanks. Thanks for joining us. And join us again for another Ask the DTG Expert, because we've got more lined up. Take care. Thanks, Terry.